Emergencies are an unfortunate part of life, and when one happens, there's one go-to phone call, 911, 3 digits that can sometimes be the difference between life and death. When you call 911, you probably expect the person who answers to be calm, cool, and collected and trained to handle anything, and they can, but they also deal with much more. WWAY Weekend anchor Hannah Patrick explains in this WWAY investigation, 911 on hold.
We began looking into the New Hanover County 911 Center after an anonymous tip from one of its own, claiming the center is short-staffed, employees are overworked, and calls are not getting answered in a timely manner. The tip says some calls wait 2 or 3 minutes before being answered, and sometimes staffers work numerous 12-hour shifts due to overtime. Today, an hour after we posted a web story on the topic, we received another anonymous tip expressing similar concerns. We took some of those concerns to county leaders. Wilmington, September 28th. 2 men lying in a ditch, victims of an accidental electrocution. 2 lives on the line.
You have reached New Hanover County 911. We are currently experiencing high volumes of emergency calls.
It was Monday, 8 a.m.
Please do not hang up. We will be with you as soon as possible.
A third worker sits in energized equipment, unable to get to safety.
I need an ambulance and probably need 2 ambulances.
You don't know if you're going to bring a life into the world or if you're going to see one going out.
At the New Hanover County 911 Center,
2110-4.
These are the people on the other end of your 911 call.
Just for 1014.
Communications manager Deborah Cottle says more than 60 people are employed to work the often grueling and stressful shifts.
It's overtime, it's a regular shift, it's on call.
But many dispatchers are leaving this department at a high rate. In fiscal year 2015, 57% of the staff left. That's compared to the national average of about 20%. So why is it so high in New Hanover County?
We actually hired 2 large groups, and during those groups, when you bring them in like that, not everybody's going to be able to complete the training. They come in with the best heart, the desire to do the job.
Cottle says the high turnover means lots of overtime.
The telecommunicators can work 4 days in a row, take a break, and come back for more, because we have to make sure that they're okay, because if they get burned out, they're not going to be of any use to us.
We were told dispatchers have worked double that without a break. Cottle says she hasn't heard of that, but that should not happen. In the last 6 months alone, the department spent more than $238,000 on overtime. For the current fiscal year, which started in July, the county has budgeted nearly $495,000 for overtime. So how is this cycle of turnover forcing overtime corrected?
Each time that we have a vacancy, we look at what happened, at what time in their part of their training did we lose a telecommunicator. So we're revamping the system, we're revamping the way we're training, we're doing the job fair.
It also takes 240 hours of classroom training and about a year of total training for someone to be ready to take calls. But studies show nationally, dispatchers only stay for about 2 to 5 years.
The turnover rate is the stress.
And what about calls like that one where 2 men were electrocuted, the caller waiting on hold when time is of the essence? Cottle says there were 87 calls that hour, that morning. We asked for information about the number of calls that wind up in the queue or on hold. The county said it needs to get the data from AT&T. It did, however, give us this, showing on average 10% of calls are abandoned, meaning the caller just hung up either due to the wait or because they did not mean to dial 911 in the first place.
We're going to make sure that when we come to work that somebody's there to answer that phone, because 220,000 citizens that may need us at any given time, we have somebody there ready to answer the call for help.
Cottle says every single abandoned caller is called back. Records show the percentage of abandoned calls increases as the tourist crowds increase in the summer. But what about so far this month? Officials were not sure why the rate is trending upward again.
We do our best to make sure our citizens are covered first.
It's a center serving 9 different agencies in a county expected to grow by 66% in the next 25 years.
Are there plans in place to expand the center to help support the growing population?
We're always looking at that. That is something that we work with the phone company and work with how many citizens we have.
A growing county, a high-stress job. A need to hire more dispatchers to decrease the time a life may be on the line.
We're doing the job fair. Bring it to the forefront of what a telecommunicator is, what kind of job they do, and let them come in and see it firsthand versus filling out an application and just winging it.
A plan to bring in the right people who can handle this position we all hope never to need, but count on in an emergency.
They're dedicated to their job. Public services are first and foremost that we keep in mind at all times.
You heard Deborah Cottle twice mention a job fair. The county says it's the first of its kind and will give applicants a chance to see the center and speak to supervisors before they begin the application process. The job fair is this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Government Center. Bring any resumes and questions you have if you're interested in applying.
One last note, Salary.com ranks 911 telecommunicators as the 7th most stressful profession. Saturday's job fair is not just for dispatchers, though. They are hiring other county positions as well. Head to our website, WWAY-TV3.com, for more information. And we know there are 3 digits to call, 911. Last week we told you the New Hanover County 911 Center saw a much higher turnover rate last year than the national average.
And then former and current telecommunicators who answer your 911 calls are now speaking out, telling us how that rate affects their job. WWAY weekend anchor Hannah Patrick explains in this ongoing WWAY investigation, 911 on hold.
We began looking into the New Hanover County 911 Center after an anonymous tip from a current employee claiming the center is short-staffed, employees are overworked, and calls are not getting answered in a timely manner. After we aired our investigation a week ago on the center's 57% turnover rate last year, we got such a large response from current and former dispatchers voicing their concerns. So this time, we hear from some of the dispatchers that make up that turnover rate, shedding some light on the staffing, the burnout, and how it may affect your emergency. It's a phone call no one wants to have to make.
Just shot the man in front of me.
Right here, just shot a person.
It's right there now. I'm not going further. No, the car just went into the water.
But someone has to be there to answer it when lives may be on the line.
New Hanover County 911.
You can lose your mind afterwards, but in those 30 seconds, you better be the #1 person in the world, because you have to be.
But not everyone has what it takes to be a 911 telecommunicator.
You got to be compassionate.
What if you have what it takes, but something else is still standing in the way of doing your job?
When you're sitting at work and it's your 4th, 5th, 6th day in a row and you know you don't want to be there and your mind's not in the game, it's a dangerous situation.
That's one of the reasons Selena Patton says she voluntarily left the New Hanover County 911 Center in December 2014.
I didn't feel like I was getting as much from the job as I was putting in. You know, because staffing was short, I was working overtime.
She's not alone. Many dispatchers are leaving this department at a high rate. In fiscal year 2015, 57% of the staff left. That's compared to the national average of about 20%, according to industry studies. In Brunswick County, where they have about half the staff, the most recent statistics available show turnover was about 22%.
My previous job for 10 years, we had a high turnover rate, higher than normal jobs, but nothing like this.
Jennifer Downey also worked at the 911 Center with Patton for a few years. Downey was fired from her job there in 2014. But her story and Patton's are similar, like many of the other tips we got.
There was no teamwork, no group, nothing welcome.
New Hanover County spokeswoman Ruth Smith says the 911 Center is moving in a positive direction now.
We did have a period of time and their turnover rate was significantly higher than where we would want it to be. The turnover rate for a job like this nationally is in the 22% range, I believe, and that's where we're trending currently.
Smith says they only expect people to stay in this role for about 2 to 5 years, but what about the constant vacancies and the short staffing forcing overtime?
If you're tired, if you're angry, if you're annoyed, if you feel like you're not getting what you feel like you deserve, you can't tell this person, okay, don't worry, we're going to be there, I'm going to do the best I can do for you because I'm not the best I am for me.
Smith says the 911 Center has a policy in place so that doesn't happen.
Employees work 3 12-hour shifts and then have time off.
But that's not what we were told last week.
The telecommunicators can work 4 days in a row, take a break, and come back for more.
Some will come to us and ask to work additional shifts.
I am one of those people who don't have family at home, and I did appreciate the extra money, But there were times when I didn't want to work like that. You know, when you're choosing to do it, it's one thing. When you don't have the choice, it's certainly another.
Smith says burnout is closely monitored.
They have on-call shifts. Sometimes they will get called in, but there is no way that somebody who is tired and exhausted and burnt out currently would be put back on the phones.
For Patton, burnout is one of the reasons she left New Hanover County, but not the job. She works as a dispatcher for another agency, and she says she loves it. But she says she needed a better working environment, something she says that all dispatchers need.
The bottom line is when people call us, they're not having a good day. You know, and when someone talks to you on the phone, they don't have anything nice to say to you. You know, they're angry or they're hurt or they lost a family member. So you never get a break. You never ever do. So I think it's important that we keep a family-oriented environment among us because we don't get that break.
A break Patton says every telecommunicator needs to be there for every emergency when a life may be on the line. Last weekend, New Hanover County held the first job fair of its kind for 3 different departments, including the 911 center. Smith says 100 applicants were interested in being a telecommunicator. She says it was a successful way to find people that are right for this job. She hopes to have the center's 9 current vacancies filled within the next few weeks.
All right, interesting stuff. Thank you, Hannah.